experience the full power of the dark side. Good!
We will deal with your rebel friends soon enough.
What the? Misa back!
Prepare to fire!
Oh no!
Hello and welcome back to Star Wars Beyond the Stars for episode number 31.
Goopa noopa.
Recorded on Friday, May 1st, 2015. I'm your host Fred, aka Sith Lord Corv. And joining me, other than Treek and ID10T, is Agent Louis Olan.
Hello, Fred. Hello, everyone on Twitch, Hitbox, YouTube. What is going on? And, as always, greetings from Sith Intelligence.
You like that I introduced you after that fuzzy badger rap?
Me too.
Don't worry. I have something that'll take care of this.
Is it a grenade?
Several.
I noticed you have a new shiny white and silver uniform.
Yes, brand spanking new. We'll get into it later.
Star Wars dry clean her. Then we look over to Captain Kimbray.
I'm here because the ship doesn't fly itself.
Where are we going tonight?
Mm.
That's the usual answer because ID10T is running the Nava computer.
Going to Ziost!
You can find out more about our show at StarWarsBeyond.com. We're available on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and SWTORnetwork.com. You can like us on Facebook at Facebook.com/StarWarsBeyondPodcast. You can tweet us at StarWarsBeyond, and our usual record time is Wednesday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at twitch.tv/NoSHTGaming or hitbox.tv/StarWarsBeyond, depending on the night and how technology is working for us. So, Paige, what's coming up in the Captain's Log tonight?
Coming up in the Captain's Log, we have our last week in game, the Outfit Designer, a hands-on discussion, Agent Olan's Intelligence Report, where Lou will present Force Powers Part 9, plus the weekly winner of the Agent Star Wars Trivia Question of the Week, and your feedback in our community holo feed.
And tonight we do have something quick to mention. And this is coming straight from Eric Musco from Dev Tracker from today, Friday morning actually, around 10:30, his time. And Eric writes, "Hey folks, I wanted to pass on one more update before we go into the weekend. In looking at our data, since we actioned players yesterday for exploiting, we have had no additional players exploit since then. It is a great sign that, for the time being, use of the exploit has completely stopped. We will continue to monitor throughout the weekend and take action against any further exploitation. We want to thank all of you who have steered clear of that area and continue to play the game in a fair and respectful way. I will give you one final update regarding the exploit on Monday. Thanks, Eric."
All right, Lou, so you want to give us a rundown of what this exploit was that people were doing?
All right, basically, and I'll try to keep it spoiler-free if you haven't gotten to Ziost yet, any of your characters. Essentially, when you get to Ziost, there is an area that for now is blocked off for player access. It is part of the zone that you're in, one of the zones that you're in, but you just can't get to there yet because they haven't unlocked that part of the story yet for the rest of us, for the player base. Apparently, though, players have found a way to get into this locked area and actually take on one of the bosses there. I believe it's the world boss that's in that area for the planet. Take him on and gain access to the loot table that it has, and therefore obviously get the loot that's there. So what BioWare has been doing is that they've been tracking players who have been gaining access to that zone and issuing whatever punishments they deem necessary. Okay. One of the updates for this, though, is that even though this did happen, okay, since 3.2 went live, there were instances on the PTS though where the players on the PTS server actually did report ways to get into that area in the first place, and BioWare did address that. However, obviously, there are always multiple ways to get to an area. So what they did was, the reported areas, they took care of that. But apparently, there's still another way to get in that the players missed and the dev team missed, and that's what they're taking action against right now.
See, I don't know how I feel about this, because it seems to me if this area wasn't supposed to be accessible, they shouldn't have had a world boss back there. Because as soon as people figured out a way to get back there, finding a world boss is like a carrot on the stick to provoke people to want to go back there. And I still don't get the overall community of people that go in there and do things like this, because BioWare is actually starting to take action against people for doing foul things now. Somebody still thought this was a good idea.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sorry, just to clarify, because I'm taking one last look at on the forums. Yeah, it's an operations boss. I'm sorry, operations boss, and whatever other content that's in that area that they're accessing and getting the loot from those areas. So yeah, that's definitely a huge exploit for that gear. Yeah,
and Play saying that folks got greedy for the 204 main hands that the boss will drop. Mm-hmm. And he says there's two bosses there, a world boss and an instance boss. But if this area wasn't meant to be accessible, those bosses shouldn't even have been in the game until the area goes live. If the territory's there, that's fine, but don't patch the mobs in until they're ready to be there.
Not just mobs, but the loot too.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing. Obviously, none of us here are programmers, so I for one can't tell how hard it would be to actually just completely block off that part of the coding or data. Also, I get to see from their point of view, it would probably be less stressful on the patch servers if they gave things at once, but all they had to do was actually just flip a switch, so to speak, in the code to actually activate those areas for us when the time comes. And therefore, no one's hogging up or they're not chugging for a couple hours downloading the latest info and trying to get in there. But it is pretty. I don't understand why players would actually want to go out there and just take advantage of this, because.
And we're not even just talking one or two people here and there. These are operations bosses, which means you have to have an operations team to do this.
Right, yeah. Operations boss and a world boss. So you're actually, you're taking people who are willingly know this is not supposed to happen. And they're willingly going in there to take full advantage of this. And I, for one, heartily believe that a bunch of these knuckleheads actually think they did nothing wrong.
What, is someone upset that they were disciplined?
Oh, nobody wants to get suspended. I'm sure that a lot of these people that did this are getting a hold of BioWare and they're saying, well, if you wouldn't have put this in the game, then I couldn't have done it. How was I supposed to know I wasn't supposed to do that?
Right, and that's one of the piss poor excuses they're going to use. Say, well, it was broken. You shouldn't have released it in the first place. Not my fault.
And people take on the mentality of, okay, well, when I did this, I was there with the whole operations team. It's not like they're just going to punish everybody.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
It's the mentality people take. If I'm able to do it, it's not my fault.
Right.
Yeah, and that's stupid. You should take accountability for your actions. You did something wrong, and you're being punished for it.
And it would be blatantly obvious, too, because I don't know the specifics of this one, but let's just say this area was blocked off by a rock or something, and you're actually going and wiggling back and forth to get back behind this rock. You're not supposed to be back there, but somebody went into an area where I'm sure it was clear they weren't supposed to be back there, And Pele's saying that groups were summoning people to the boss, probably using their guild perks to call people down. So that makes it even worse. That means one person figured out how to get back there and like, hey, there's an operations boss back here. Everybody come here and help me kill it.
Right, and if that's the case where they were, if that was an exploit using the guild perk, again, this is just me, my own personal opinion. You know what? Say goodbye to your effing guild. Everything you worked for, everything you've done in the past year, I don't give a rat's ass. Guess what? Your guild is gone.
Well, I wouldn't do that just because this could be the situation. Like, say Ziost just went live and we're in the same guild and we don't know each other that well, but I'm in your guild and I'm on Ziost. All you know from looking in your guild windows, I'm on Ziost, and I go, hey, there's an operations boss here. Who wants to come help me kill it? And you're like, oh, I do. So I invite you to a group, and then I summon you, so you come there. We kill this operations boss, and you don't find out till after the fact that I pulled you into a area you weren't supposed to be in, and you're getting action taken against you because I went someplace I wasn't supposed to go and brought you there.
Well, here's the thing, though. To counter that, it's like BioWare didn't say that the operations boss was accessible for this part of the update. All right, the operations bosses weren't part of this.
No.
So the moment someone says, well, how about taking an ops boss in Ziost? Really? The ops boss isn't supposed to be there.
Well, yeah, but not everybody reads patch notes and sees what's coming. Like, a lot of these people that got pulled into this may have not even known they were doing something wrong. They may have just blindly went wherever a guild officer or leader pulled them to, thinking that it was just part of the new content. Because once Pele mentions people were getting summoned here, I mean, I could see how certain people might have got pulled into this not knowing they were doing something wrong. But whoever did the summoning should definitely get action taken against them because that person had to manually figure out how to get in there. But we have seen BioWare restrict certain areas from being able to use the ability to call people down. And if there was an operations boss on Ziost, and that's a brand new planet, people shouldn't have been able to use the call down ability there.
Right, that ability should have been blocked off. Until later, until the actual part of the content was active.
I mean, I believe that they had it disabled on Rishi when it first came out because people were using it to call people down to get datacrons from blocked areas. So they disabled that for a while and then enabled it again down the road. They should do the same thing with every new planet.
Yeah, and, test to make sure it sticks because obviously it didn't work with Ziost. But hopefully they're fixing it now and it's not going to happen again. And Pele brings up a good point, All right, suspension, fine. You know what? Take that on a case-by-case basis. All right? To make it fair for everyone. However, to make sure everything is fair, anything and everything that your players have received from that area just goes away.
Yeah.
No questions. It's like, all right, you got this, and this from there. All right, it's gone.
But I tell you right now, like, if any of these people that got action taken against them are repeat offenders from the last big exploit that happened, those people, they should be hit hard, like at least a month's suspension.
Well, did anyone mention anything about progressive discipline for someone who may be a repeat offender?
No,
I believe last time that the exploit happened, the last exploit, they did say they were taking into account previous action on people's accounts when they were dealing out discipline. I would assume that would come up any time that they did discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but then again, that all depends on how BioWare is tracking these, or just tracking us in general. It could be just easy as every player should have a file, quote unquote file, on them in the system, so that anyone could look us up.
Oh, I'm sure like all that stuff is marked on your account.
This goes on your permanent record.
I mean that's basic 101. Like they have to be able to make notations on your account. I mean, even EverQuest back in 1999 could do something like that. All right, but we're kind of turning this into a mini discussion, and so there's something quick to mention. So let's go ahead and move into the captain's log. And Paige, what did you do over the last week?
I can tell you what I did, but guess what I didn't do?
PvP?
That and trade skills. I actually did not PvP at all my operative this week because I've been getting my PvP fix from another game. Thanks, BioWare. But as far as PvE, I played my power tech with Fred Sorcerer. And when I say that we played together, what I really mean is we were in a group together, but we were not in the same place or doing the same things. It was one of those situations where we were both finishing up some end of the chapter class story quest for chapter 2. So, he was on Droman Koss and I was on a ship somewhere. It didn't make sense. We were still in a group for whatever reason. I mean, we didn't really have to be.
I don't think we realized how long that was going to take.
Yeah, we never even crossed paths. I think that the intention was to play together, but we're like, oh yeah, we're going to wrap this up first. And then we played for so long without each other. It was like, well, damn, it's time for bed. At one point, and I won't spoil the who, where, or why, because some people haven't played this yet, I guess. But a Jedi was speaking to my power tech. And he waved his hand in an attempt to use a Jedi mind trick on me and commanded me to put down my weapon. And my character got the most hilarious, WTF look on her face and glanced at HK like, is this guy serious? And I chose the option that made her wave her hand back at him and say, you will realize how big of an idiot you are. And it made me laugh so hard. I watched it twice. I X'd it out and then redid it because I wanted to see her do that again. And he just, he looked really disappointed in me and then things happened. Not going to say what, though. But continuing on with my power tech and the class story, I did find a problem with one of my conversations. And again, I won't spoil it. I was speaking to someone off of the ship, and HK was with me, as he's the only companion I like to use on my power tech thus far. And when I returned to the ship, there was a cutscene where Mako asked me how the conversation with that person went. And Galt answered her as if he were there. So the conversation is designed without someone like HK or Treek in mind. Those are supposed to be your only two companions at that point. Only one of them would have been with you to have the conversational option to respond to the question. And I consider it a flaw because if I had chose to not take either of them and take my ship droid, then, if HK and Treek didn't exist and I took my ship droid, it would have still been an oversight because either Galt or Mako would have answered the question as if they were with me, and they weren't. I mean, HK was in the cutscene. He was sitting right beside me. We looked at each other at one point. I mean, there was eye contact. It was real. So, it was a little bit of an oversight to me, and I kind of want to report it, but I don't think they'll do anything about it. And the only other thing I have to say is Fred and I both plan to play Ziost this weekend, but I'm not sure who we're going to end up doing it on.
Our mains on Jedi Covenant.
I thought that's what you were going to say.
But it's interesting you mentioned that design of the mechanics and not including the current newer companions, because there's one part of the Jedi Knight story toward the end where they actually force you to group with T7. And he's the only companion you can pick. Okay. And when I was playing through, my T7 was horribly undergeared because I never used him for anything. So I opened up my companion menu, and all of my companions that I got through leveling were grayed out, and you couldn't pick them except for T7. But HK was still lit up because he wasn't taken into account when they blocked out your other companions. Mm-hmm. So I pulled him out, and I'm like, screw you, T7.
Yeah, I remember that too, because the same thing happened on my Sentinel. And I was like, oh, crap, what am I supposed to do? Because, I actually like T7. I like using him every now and then. But the thing is, I also like using Kira. Just because of the interaction. Who doesn't like hearing eat lightsaber jerk every so often? Because that's one of their best sayings. And when I got to that point in the story, in the Jedi Knight story, I'm realizing, oh man, what am I supposed to do? Because, T7 was, to say woefully undergeared is an understatement. And, it was just sheer luck and sheer determination that got me through that part of the storyline.
You know that they nerfed that now? Like, when you play through that part of the story and you have to use T7 as you're going up to your objective in that particular instance, there is a broken down droid on the floor, and looting it gives you a full set of gear for T7.
Well,
Wow.
that's nice.
Yeah, all right.
And I think it's all orange and moddable.
That's good.
Very
At least
nice.
they thought about that. Yeah, that's a good. That's a nice workaround that they put in there.
Yeah, it's like you just walk up there and there's this random astromech that's just broken down on the ground. You're like, what the hell is this? And it's like lit up, so you click on it, and it gives you a full set of moddable stuff for him.
Well, I'm not trying to call like other players stupid, and even I like would do this sometimes. Sometimes you look at something that's clickable and you're like, if I click on this, am I going to get my butt kicked? I might. So you just kind of walk away from it.
Yeah. I was going to say that wouldn't really happen to you in a class mission, but I can't remember if it was a class mission or a planetary one, but there was definitely a mission on one particular planet where clicking something gets you killed instantly.
Isn't it Terrace?
Well, I don't want to spoil whatever it was because I don't remember if it was a class story or whatever. But you're sent to investigate something and you click on the wrong thing and it kills you.
No, I think that's just a quest. I think it's on Terrace. I can't remember now. It just happens to be really close to something else that you're looting, so you walk over to it and you're like, ooh, clicky, clicky, this is something nice. And then all these bad people come out and kill you. There's no escape either. You're like, oh my god, and then you're dead.
That wasn't the one I was thinking about. I was thinking about you're investigating something and you click on something in particular and a bunch of like poison darts shoot out of the wall and like kill you. Like the damage is so heavy you can't even survive it.
Oh, great.
I don't remember where that quest is though, but it was crazy. And you know, this one in particular, I'd done the Jedi Knight story once before, and the first time around I had the horribly undergeared T7, and then the second time around was when I was on Shadowlands playing my dark side Jedi Knight, and that's when this time there's this big glowy astromech in the middle of the floor, and I'm like, what the hell is this? This wasn't here before. And I click it and I got a whole set of droid gear, and I'm like, oh, they did this so when you're forced to use T7 you can actually use him and not have to make a special trip to the GTN to gear him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or just do it. Say, damn it, I'm just going to do it anyway. And die several times over.
I think they got tired of people complaining because I can't think of another time in any particular class story where it's that crucial that you have a specific companion and you don't have the gear.
It does happen in other class stories. It happens in the Sith Warrior story. There's situations where you absolutely have to have Quinn. There's situations where I've absolutely had to use Mako. And I think it can be somewhat of an oversight to force you to use those characters. If you've chosen not to use them, like T7's your first companion, and Mako's your first companion. If you quickly get another companion and you decide you like them better or they just work better with your build, and you just kind of neglect Mako or you neglect T7, when you're forced to use them, it cripples you as a player. So it's a good idea for them to stick things like that into those class stories where you are going to be forced to use that companion.
True, but like for the other classes, that point comes at a lower level or in the mid-levels, and the Jedi Knight, it was like literally one of the last quests of your class story. So you're like level 50 and you're with the T7 that's wearing like level 10 gear.
You know, now that I'm thinking about it, there was a quest on my smuggler, Captain Kimbray, where I needed to use Corso, and I had been using a Kavi for forever, and I was forced to use him. And the poor thing, I had not used him in so long, he couldn't stay alive. It was a bugged quest, and I remember talking about that on the show about how the mobs wouldn't come out of the room and all that. I remember that, talking about it, but even when I finally like glitched them out of the room, he still just kept dying. I was like, oh my god, I need a copy so bad.
Yeah, and the shocking thing is too is that playing BioWare games for all these years, not just with Star Wars: The Old Republic, but in any of the BioWare games, not just BioWare Austin, but in the other studios like BioWare Montreal and Edmonton. We play KOTOR 1, KOTOR 2, Jet Empire, any of the Mass Effect games. Okay, all the RPGs that BioWare puts out, no matter the studio, they always have quests or stories, particular side stories, side missions in their games, to where you're forced to use specific companions in order to advance that storyline or that particular mission. And in those other games as well, yeah, it does cripple you because, case in point, there are missions like that in Mass Effect, to where, yeah, you always roll with, two of your favorite companions, and then realizing, oh crap, I've got to use these characters now because the game says, hey, for this part of the story, these characters, these companions are doing this mission for you on the side on their own. So you have to use these two. Like, great, I haven't given them at all. I mean, they've got nothing. They've got the starter gear that when you encounter them in the story, that's all they've got.
So they should follow suit with what they did with the Jedi Knight story. And like when you're in a quest where you're forced to use Corso, you should walk in there and there just happens to be a dead guy on the floor with a whole bunch of armor you can give to Corso.
And I'm like, Corso, take off his clothes.
Well, the thing is, in those other games, the single player RPGs that BioWare puts out, they actually, I think, have little warnings in the splash screens or loading screens where say, hey, be mindful for your companions, keep them up to date, your gear.
Shoot, not everybody can afford all that, especially when you're owed 800,000 credits.
700,000. Check your mail at some point.
800,000. I'm charging you interest and a holding fee.
Wow, she's got an old banker's claim on you, man.
I don't even recall this loan.
Oh my god!
So, Lou, what did you do over the last week?
Well, actually, when I... wow, she went banker's claim on you, dude. I'm sorry, Banner is coming after you now. Anyway...
Before we get Imperial Auditor Buckeye's interest peaked, what did you do over the last week, Lou?
Well... just this past Monday, realizing, reminding myself, oh yeah, 3.2 is dropping Tuesday morning. Heck yes. So, I was on the website for a bit and just making sure everything was cool, try to get first impressions of everything. And then Tuesday, oh yes. Took care of all my real life stuff in a hurry. I mean, super quick. Rescheduled some things. And just downloaded the patch or the update as soon as possible, and just started going into it. So what happened was, I first went to Ziost on my operative. Okay, always because my operative is my main. She's my main girl. So went there and I actually made the mistake. Well, not mistake, but I actually went through the launcher in and of itself. I usually now go through Steam in order to get dependable screenshots within the game, because for some reason...
my cheat to do that, too.
Yeah, exactly, because using the default screenshot key in Tor itself, it's like playing, rolling the dice. It's a 50-50 chance that your screenshot will save or not. And, after Fred told me that little trick of using Steam and then launching Tor, and, I have like over 3,000 screenshots now in my Steam library alone for Tor.
Well, not only that, but like if the default screenshot button actually takes a screenshot, you got to dig through your computer to find where the picture went.
Right. The game doesn't make it easy for you, unlike a lot of other games that I play on my computer. 99% of them all have a screenshot folder right here. Tor, it's like, where the hell did it go? But that's besides the point. But that's one of the mistakes I made on my operative. I did not go through Steam, and because of that, I missed a lot of great opening cinematic screenshots for Ziost. And I'm like, damn it, and I can't go back and do it over again. So that's one thing that I'm really miffed about, that I didn't go, I wasn't thinking straight, and I didn't go through Steam. So now I missed all those great screenshots I could have had in my library, wallpaper, what have you, and stuff I would gladly post on Twitter, back to Tor.
Well, look on the bright side. Ziost is part of the progression, so like literally every character you have is going to go through there now.
Right, yeah, but I prefer to use my my operative for a lot of those shots. 'Cause, she's my favorite. And as of now, okay, as of a couple of days ago, I did apparently I finished what I think is part 1 of the storyline for Ziost. Okay, because I'm at a point, and that's one thing, but I'm at a point to where I am back at the starting location, okay, to where each faction will have its own starting location above the planet, just so you know, you're at you go to space station first, okay? And that's your rally point, your meeting point. And then you take a shuttle down to the planet in its itself. So now I'm back on that station, and I'm just waiting for an update to happen. And for the life of me, no matter what I do, logging in and out, going back down to the planet, double checking to make sure I have nothing open, and I can't get an update. So right now, that's where I'm stuck at right now on my operative. And I'm trying to dig through the forums to figure out, is this a bug, or is this really, they obviously, the stories and chapters, and I actually finished, the opening chapter.
Maybe there's more in that other part that's going to open on May 4th.
Right, exactly. This Monday is they're going to release the rest of it, or, the next part of it, and then I'll get that update that I'm looking for.
And certain people are going to have to wait like a week after to play it.
yeah, exactly.
The people that got early access.
and that's the thing, too, because that's one thing I'd like to bring up, because I don't mind the fact that they, if they did do that, because it does look like they broke it up into little segments here and there to stretch out the gameplay, which is cool. Little chapters. This is chapter 1, or this is the prologue, and then you guys are going to get chapter 1, 2, and 3. In the coming weeks, which is fine. But I really wish they had just said, once you reach this part of the quest line, you would get a system message on your quest tracker to say, hey, you've completed, this stage of the storyline. Okay. Stay tuned till this date, and you get the rest of the rest of it opens up. Because as of now, my quest journal says, hey, you need to check this for an update, and nothing is happening. This game doesn't tell you anything, and for some reason, if I missed it, I didn't see anyone in the game update notes saying, okay, it's broken into pieces, and this is your endpoint for this part of the content for now. So just something like that, just so people aren't, I wasn't the only character doing it too. Like other players doing the same thing, like going back and forth to the terminal, going, all right, are we doing something wrong? What's up? Click. Walk away. Click. All right, so next time, maybe just put a system message there, or just to the players, hey, you're done for now. Wait for the rest. It's coming soon, TM. And I'd be happy. It just would take the annoyance factor out of the way. So as of now, I'm just running my Sentinel Marauder through it at the moment. I started running my Marauder through it today. The other night, I started on my Sentinel. But then today, I figured, I want to start my other Imperial character, so I brought my Marauder through. And she's on there now. She just started, I think, the third quest on the planet. And then as I finish those 2 characters off, then I'll finish the rest of my max level characters as the week follows. And then obviously one of the great things to come out with 3.2 is the outfit designer. And this is a welcome quality of life addition. All right, I really do like it a lot because it does, for me at least, answer the one question that myself and other players who were part of the original beta way back when, saying, "How are we ever going to get an outfit tab, customized appearance tab, and not the orange armor that we got in the game, but an actual what we have now in the outfit designer? Are we going to get an appearance tab like we have in other games? Quoting examples from EverQuest 2, Star Wars Galaxy before that went away. Are we ever going to see anything like that in the game?" And they said no. But they would have something else for us in mind, hence we got the orange armor. The orange gear. But this is welcome too, because we still have the orange armor, but we also now have the appearance tab, or the outfit designer. For me, it can be a bit of an annoying credit sink. Because it does cost credits, but Zenning credits are pretty easy to obtain in the game. And from what I've seen so far, all the costs are there. I mean, the website does tell you how much each tab costs and how much the slots cost. And it's affordable. I think it's one of the few things in the game that all 3 levels of players can get reasonably well. If you're free to play, preferred, or sub, a couple of days here and there, you'll get your tab. If you want more tabs.
If you buy them at lower levels, it is dramatically cheaper. Like I did an outfit on a level 10 character, and it cost me like 180 credits.
Mm-hmm.
So do it as low level as possible once you pick out your look, and it'll save you a lot of credits.
Exactly. Or, if you're in a place like where I am, where I have got almost 8 max level characters, so yeah, if I want the extra tabs, it's going to cost me, but I'm also at a point to where, all those characters, run dailies religiously. So they're never short for money. So for me, it's like, okay, I'll get the money back in 2-3 days tops on each character running dailies. So it's no big deal. So again, that's what I like. As Fred's mentioned, yeah, if you start at lower level, cheaper. But at least the way it's priced, a few days of work here and there, running regular quests, flashpoints, what have you, dailies, or whatever dailies you have access to, depending on what level you are, it's fine. You can do it. It's not that hard. At least to me, it doesn't appear to be that hard to do if you want it. Also, as Fred would talk about later on, I also resurrected the use of a lot of old speeders that I placed in the garage since they were limited in speeder piloting. There were some great looking speeder mounts that you got at 1 or 2, but then the moment you hit, speeder piloting 3, you can't go back to those speeders anymore.
Well, not only that, there were certain speeders that dropped in flashpoints and stuff that were only speeder piloting 2.
Right. And that was just bloody annoying.
And I had the broken down speeder from the Chevron event, and that was speeder piloting 2. They finally made that adaptable now, so I can use that.
I think I have that mount from one of the Revenant counters that was in the same boat, like it was a lower rank.
You do, and now it's max speed.
It doesn't matter, I won't ride it.
Yeah, and here's the thing, though. It's like, I never understood why they restricted it. I mean, I could understand if you gain access to it at this level. Like, you get this at speeder level 1, or piloting 2 or 3. But, as you gain access to the next tier of piloting, it automatically shifts up to you. So that way, if you like that mount, you can keep using it, because I do have a lot of mounts on my characters that I bought just for the fact that those mounts look cool.
Well, the reason why it was like that is because when the game was first designed, we didn't have anything like an adaptable speeder. If you remember, even the collector's edition speeder that we got, that was set at a certain rank, and it wasn't adaptable. That didn't come until after launch, when we were getting closer to the cartel market, when they decided, okay, if we want to sell speeders to people, they better be speeders that people can use at all ranks, or they're not going to buy them.
Yeah, but to me, that should have been a game design and implement from the first place.
Well, we could make all kinds of arguments. Like, we could talk about gear and how you would have never needed an appearance tab, and SWTOR could have still used the orange item system if we didn't have greens, blues, and purples. Like, every item in the game should have been orange from the offset.
Mm-hmm.
And then we wouldn't have this problem of, okay, well, there's certain looks that I want that I can't have. Well, yeah, you can, because if you got a green item you like, just open it up and change the mods around in it. But they didn't make the game that way. And that was such a obvious oversight, because the orange item system was amazing. It was one of the few things that made SWTOR different from other MMOs out there, and they didn't embrace it enough, and we're finally at the point where they just decided to throw in the towel on it with the outfit design.
The designer, right. But at least, it's here. Okay, it's something the player base has wanted, or something, whatever. It's something similar to it, or different system, but we now have a way to change our default appearance, okay, without having to resort to the orange gear. It's here, it's available, and you know what? I really like it. And as we mentioned in past episodes, yeah, I am currently looking through all my old stuff and looking at the GTM for new stuff. For new looks for all my characters, because now I can actually have, you can literally do, hey, you know what? If I'm on Hoth, or if I'm on, Ilum, cold worlds, I can actually put on a cold weather gear look. If I'm Tatooine, I can put on a desert look. I can finally bust out, the Sand People uniform I've got. and use that on some of my characters. So I'm looking forward to that. And, I do have a bunch of, things out there that I'm going to, definitely resurrect and bring back to life. And look forward to using again after so long. And just to wrap up, I had a massive scare the other night. All right. When I first logged into the game Wednesday night, I took my operative to her stronghold, which is on Droman Kaz. And for some reason, none of my stuff was displaying. My stronghold. I mean, nothing. It was as if I just bought it.
You just walked into somebody else's apartment.
No, see, what happened is I got a key to your place, and I took all your stuff, and I sold it all to replace all the money that Fred owes me.
See, folks, that's why you never give those keys to anyone in any MMO that has housing. Never give anyone keys to your housing or the default rights to move anything in your house. Just from past experience, especially in EverQuest 2, like giving some guildies rights to actually move furniture in your place and coming back to your home and realizing, you jerks.
I don't understand that for two reasons. One, it's your little virtual home. You design it, all that. You make it look the way you want it to look. Why would anyone move anything? And second, it's like, your brother has the key to your house, so he comes in and rearranges your furniture. Like, you wouldn't let that happen either. Like, you'd come home and be like, what the hell, dude? Move it all back. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Well, EverQuest 2 is a different beast because sometimes you'd walk into people's houses and it literally looked like something out of Storage Wars where crap was just stacked on top of itself. So you'd get, like, guildies that like to do interior design, and they'd be like, hey, why don't you give me permissions and I'll fix your house. Make it not look like garbage.
And you know what? Players like that in EQ2 and Galaxies, they made quite a hefty living because, a lot of those players, damn, they were good.
I used to have guildies in certain guilds I was in EverQuest 2. I would give them permission to decorate my house, and I'd come back and my house looked like it was professionally furnished.
Mm-hmm.
It was great. I had a lot of stuff. I just couldn't make it look good.
But yeah, and because there is a skill to that. I will wholeheartedly admit that there is a skill to actually making your stronghold look freaking great.
That's why it'd be nice if SWTOR let people move things. You could give them permission to do that. Yeah,
if Tor allowed that, I would definitely, pay a player who has that skill. Say, here's the stuff. I have everything listed, so I know you're scamming. If you take anything, I know it, but please. It'll be like this old house or those shows you see on home and HGTV. Fix my home.
I like how you say that, Lou. If you take anything, I'll know it. It's all in the decoration window. It's not like they could take something out of there.
People will find a way, damn it.
Where'd my lamp go?
Damn it, you took my Jawa lava lamp, you rat.
Jawa lava lamp. That was a mouthful. Jawa lava lamp. Jawa lava lamp.
I have a little snow wampa inside of my stronghold.
Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that.
He bites people that come in uninvited.
That's why I didn't steal your stuff.
But in the end, luckily, after a few minutes, I was struggling to figure out what the hell was going on because it wasn't working in any of my characters. So, first thing I did actually work, which was just repairing my game files. And for the life of me, it worked. But I have no clue what the hell happened, though, that night. And I'm looking through the tech forums to see the bug forums, like, everyone else have this issue? Because I didn't do anything major Wednesday during the day.
I don't understand how a repair would fix that, though, because that should all be server-side.
Yeah, but it worked. So maybe there was a hiccup in the system when I logged in my characters. I don't know what, but damn it, I'm not going to question it. The gaming gods smiled on me and said, no, you've been restored. Thank you. Thank you, gaming gods. Thank you, Apwash.
Apwash was the one that took your stuff.
What? Bastard. Neath. I'll thank Neath.
No, don't do that.
Yeah, I don't thank Neath for anything.
Neath thanks a few too many people.
You can thank Neath for the itch that you have now.
Wow.
Oh.
I just took it there.
And moving on to what I did this last week.
You know what? That's fine. I'll just use hell.
Can't say that word on this. Just kidding. All right, so Sith Sorcerer. I went around Tatooine and Alderaan again, redoing the heroic quests that I did a few weeks ago to get the pieces that were blue so I could finally finish my outfit, which is amazing because there aren't any oranges that look like that in the game, so I finally finished that off. I finished Chapter 1 on that character and did the beginning interlude Chapter 2 stuff, so I'm finally ready to go back to a planet, which happens to be Terrace. But that's cool because it's Imperial side, so it's not like the Republic equivalent of Balmora. And my Sage started catching up on his backlog of quests, so that when 12 times XP returns on Monday, I can really hit the ground running on trekking to level 60 with him.
Oh, yeah.
I started going around and buying some of the vanilla speeders, which are all now adaptable. Thank you, BioWare. Major kudos for that.
Yeah, because like I said, a lot of vanilla speeders are still some of the best looking ones in the game.
And some of the designs you can't even get as oranges from, well, not oranges, but adaptables from the cartel market yet.
Mm-hmm.
And intentionally, I was saving the gear that my trooper started with because it was one of the few Republic uniforms, and I didn't realize at the time that starter gear was gray. I thought it was white, and I made the mistake of sending Eric Jorgen to go sell my stuff.
Bad kitty.
And there went my starter gear.
See, that's what you get for trusting the Cathar to sell you gear.
So I opened a ticket, and BioWare gave it all back to me within 12 hours.
Well, that's very nice of them.
Wow.
They sent me a very nice-ish email that it contained some words that were actually English. Most of it was English.
That's cool though.
Some
This
made
whole
up
tour.
stuff, but they restored the items, and interestingly enough, they came back to me in the form of an in-game mail, where the background of it was the BioWare B.
Nice.
Yeah, it's fancy, so I'll be keeping that in my box forever.
I was gonna say the BioWare Autobot, came through.
We're going to have to get you one of those spray bottles that we used to spray Trig for you to spray Arik with when he's being bad. Just spray him in the face and say, no, firmly.
Ark's dead to me now. And they finally fixed those freaking lightsabers that I was harping on forever in the last cartel shipment. The ones that had the like glitchy orange lights. They were yellow lights that popped out when you were holding it, and orange ones when you would sheath it. And they were floating like 6 inches away from the lightsaber hilt. They fixed the single-bladed lightsabers. The lights are completely gone. They look amazing now. But the double-bladed ones, they got rid of the yellow lights when you're holding it, but when you sheath it, it still has the orange lights that come 6 inches out from it. So we're about 3/4 of the way there, BioWare.
Almost.
Yeah, almost there, folks. Come on, we can do it.
Good effort.
I was only really concerned with the one-handed ones, but I may open up a follow-up ticket or do a post on the forums or something. I don't know, but I feel like that's the first thing that I've actually reported to BioWare as being broken that was actually fixed, and they didn't even notate it as an actual fix. It was just kind of stealthily slipped in there.
Yeah.
But it gives me hope that maybe one day that Dread's haircut will actually be fixed. Fix that little bit of tearing in the back.
We can hope one day.
And moving into the discussion topic, which we've kind of already alluded to in a major kind of way. Outfit designer! We have hands-on experience with it now. Lou.
Yes, we do. So, again, just to reiterate, 3.2, one of the major features they brought up was the release of the outfit designer. So, if you haven't yet had a chance to experience it, and you're wondering, what the hell are these extra tabs doing on my character sheet? Those go for your outfit designer, okay? So now, instead of having to use orange gear, going poor, buying that gear, depending on what server you're on and the economy, okay, and then actually paying the price for swapping out your mods, okay? The outfit designer does allow you to take old pieces of gear, okay, combine the looks into one overall look, and have that set as your appearance. All right. And the great thing is, once you actually place an item, into the costume slot, okay, the outfit slot, it'll take, the server will take it, we'll capture it, so to speak, and then you no longer have to keep it on you, meaning you don't have to keep that piece of gear on you in your inventory physically. All right, because other MMOs I've played that do use something like this, sometimes the game will force you to actually have those items physically on you in your inventory in order for you to employ that in the costume system.
Don't get rid of the items, though, because this is the kind of thing that I could really see a problem coming down the line, especially with BioWare's track record, where your appearance just gets wiped, and they're like, well, you got to put the items back in there and redo it.
Mm-hmm.
Right, yeah. So I definitely would say that. That's a great safety tip there, is just once you actually set those items into that particular appearance tab, you don't have to store it on you on your actual character inventory, but put it away in storage. Put it in your cargo hold. All right, and put it there. That way, if that does happen, because things do happen. Remember, this is a new system they put into the game. All right, things may or may not happen. So at least prepare for the worst, so that if things do get screwed up, you still have those items in your inventory somewhere, and you can reacquire that look. Or buy it all. Buy it again in GTN if it's being sold, and do it that way. But at least putting it in storage saves you the headache.
Okay, and my hands-on with this, I did a little bit of experimentation to see just what the outfit designer would allow you to do. True to what they claimed, you can use any armor type. You can use light, medium, heavy on any character. However, the outfit designer does honor level restrictions, so you can't wear armor that is a higher level than your actual character is in the outfit designer. And it also honors class restrictions, so you can't put like a piece of Jedi Knight armor on a Sith warrior. It won't work. So just to clarify that, like, I did the hands-on, completely tested this last night. That's how it works. And if you use like a green item or something that is unbound in order to put it in the outfit designer, it will bind that item to your character.
Yes, that's another thing too. Remember that if that gear you're going to use is unbound and you're thinking of spreading it around to a bunch of your characters, you can't, because that will happen. Once you actually choose to use an unbound item for your costume or for your outfit, it will bind it to that particular character you're using on. So, unless that item is legacy bound, then that's the only way I can see getting around that. Okay? But if it's just a regular item, it will bind it to you, and that's it. You can't use it anymore for anyone but that one character that's on. So just be aware of that. So if you want the same look for multiple characters, be aware that you may have to buy it 2, 3, or 4 times. Okay? Great thing too, you can unify the color, like we can with our regular gear. Okay? And it's easy to switch outfits. Just press of a button. All right. You hit the particular tab, hit the apply or activate, I believe, and that's it. You get a instantaneous switch to that look on your avatar. All right. Now, obviously, it doesn't work on your weapons. They haven't added that in yet, or they won't actually. I believe it's because of a technical limitation that they can't do weapon appearances. All right. So just your outfits, just your gear, they can do.
So that means if you really want a particular weapon, pester them to make an orange version of it.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, if you really like the looks of the older, the leveling weapons that you had, like there are actually, for my agent, for my trooper, there were greens and blue items that I received questing and leveling up that I really like the looks. But you know what? Sold them because, after 4 or 5 levels, I can't use it anymore.
Yeah, I think a lot of people probably would have been mad if they made weapons suddenly able to be used in this system, because there were a lot of cool weapons that I got rid of over the years because they weren't moddable.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just for my trooper alone, there were a lot of great-looking rifles, blaster rifles I dropped that I know I'm going to have. I sold them off. Unless they were orange to begin with, because the question was an orange rifle. That was cool. I kept those, obviously.
Do you also hoard orange weapons that you have no real intention on using, but you just keep them just because they're orange?
Yes, I
wondered if
all
that
my
was
characters.
just me.
Every one of my characters, double blade lightsabers, single blade lightsabers, blaster pistols, rifles. Every one of my characters, if they get an orange weapon, it will keep it.
I was looking, like, when I was doing black hole dailies all the time, it seemed like I was always getting, like, some level 50-ish orange, like 48, I think. Orange weapons were dropping all the time, like candy, all different varieties. And I'd have, like, 4 or 5 of the same orange weapon just sitting in his bank because I'm like, well, I got it, so I might as well keep it. Mm-hmm. So, like, I have lightsabers and stuff that I'll probably never even use because if I make a Jedi or a Sith and I level it up, I'm not going to think to check that guy's bank to see if I got a weapon in there I want to use.
Yeah, it's easy this way. But again, if BioWare ever has a chance to actually get over that technical limitation and allow that, I think that would be a welcome addition to the system. And another great feature, that obviously comes with this is the fact that, you can use the item from multiple appearance sets. Okay, you're not restricted to using that item for just one tab, one particular tab of your costume, of your outfits. You can use it across all of them if you want. Like you may have a particular chest piece and leg gear that you like as your, I guess, your base look, and you can mix and match. The belt, the boots, the headgear, the braces, the gloves, and just completely mix and match that way. And I think that is one more great thing that you're going to see a lot more variety in the outfits we see now in the characters. Okay, like even before the outfit designer came out, I've seen players who, if they're DC or Marvel comic book fans, you'll see players who come to pretty close approximations to their heroes. All right, like you'll see someone. I remember seeing someone who was a male body type 3 or body type 4. Mary Allen, he was trying to imitate the Hulk.
I've seen that.
Yeah, I have also seen, max height, human females with gear that makes them look like Wonder Woman. Okay, with the boots, the top, the tiara. Okay, because we do have the tiaras in the game that come pretty close to what Wonder Woman wears. In the older versions of the comic, or the kind of the default look that Linda Carter had when she was on the TV series back then, way back when. All right, with the colors matching too. So I think this will just make even more variety. And I think, man, I haven't been back to the fleet because I've been questing on Ziost, but I can just imagine what people are wearing in the fleet. The looks that people have come up with so far for the past, 4 days.
Well, a lot of what was made available now, a lot of the actual armor types were already available, but by them adding the outfit designer, it adds a lot of recolors for some of those armors that weren't available as an orange. So you can get unique colors that you've never seen anybody wearing of a particular robe or something, because 3 different versions of that robe are available, but there's a couple colors of it that were only available on some trash green that was dropping in the level 20 zone up until now. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing too, if I'm out playing on a planet, if I get a green chest piece, I'm looking at it now to see what it looks like, see if I want to keep it and use it for an outfit.
Exactly, because my Sentinel, I think the Sentinel is a good example of that. I mean, there are low-level greens that the Sentinel can get, as drops that look amazing. Wow, I'd like to have that look for the rest of my Sentinel's, virtual life, because it looks that good. And now, now you can.
Yeah.
Look what it did now. At this point, even before the outfit designer came back, with my Sentinel has now gone back to wearing the actual orange gear the Sentinel has. You see the original game trailers, game ads, I think for the class progression system, when you see the female Sentinel with that look that she has. All right, my Sentinel is back to that now. I just recolored it. But she is now back to, if you saw my Sentinel now, she looks just like the Sentinel you see in the original game ads. For that armor set.
I wanted to contribute to the conversation. I've not built myself any outfits yet because I'm one of those people where once my mind is made up about something, I'm pretty good. And the way that I have nearly all of my characters looking right now, I'm completely happy with. Granted, they're all in orange adaptable armor or like a purple adaptable armor. And I think that the outfit designer is comparable to the one that they had in Lotro. Fred, do you remember that one?
Yes.
And I think that the time will come, and I have no doubt that this is going to happen, where they're going to start possibly marketing cosmetic items in the, what am I trying to say, cartel market. And it will be, things that are just off the wall, crazy looking, all that stuff, things you might not find in the world. And that's where they're going to start getting me. Because I'm going to be like, ooh, pretty. So that's where they're going to start getting me. And because I keep my characters in that adaptable armor so that they can wear it, continuously for the rest of forever, I never look at greens. I never do. And now that it's possible to make those things appear on my character, I'm going to have to actually start looking at them. And Pele said something in our chat that I thought that would be nice to contribute to the conversation. He says if the appearance designer really takes off, it might boost the fortunes of synth weavers and armor techs. They have some nice gear that isn't adaptable.
Yes, they do. You're absolutely right. They do have a lot of schematics.
In fact, I just sent Lou a new Imperial uniform that was all greens that I could craft.
That is exactly right. Because last night, Fred and I were on, and he actually, crafted a set for my operative because, for Tor, I love the Imperial uniform looks. Okay, being a longtime Star Wars fan myself, all right, the Empire has always had, obviously that martial tradition. Okay, and it had some really snazzy looking outfits, uniforms to go, from the movies, prequels, not from the prequels, but episodes 4, 5, and 6. Okay, and things too, if you've read any of the graphic novels, the comics for the EU, all right, especially when you're talking about, like Golden Age of the Sith, okay, Tales of the Jedi, the Empire has always had that look, that particular look, martial / military look that I like, and I like my opera to reflect that. And one of the uniforms, or one of the looks that I do like, is the fact that the Empire, some officers or some classes of officers, they have the Imperial white look, right? And that's pretty cool, especially the way they have the braiding, the medal set up, the rank system set up, and everything. I like that look. And of course, you could get the entire look, but guess what? It's green. You can't use it.
Well,
if you wear it, you die.
There was one orange, well, it was purple at the time, Imperial chess piece that you could get off of killing Darth Malgus in The False Emperor.
Yeah, I think that's the Imperial Coordination Jacket. Not sure offhand. I have it.
Well, I had that on my operative, and that's the sad thing though. Like, that was a purple. It was a white chess piece, and it did not look as good as the green one that I could craft. Like, the green one looks amazing because it has silver trim on it, and that's the thing though. Like, this is just something that I could craft. There are better looking Imperial uniforms that would drop as greens out in the world in blues. I had one for a while that I was using on Agent Temple because it was a purple with blue trim Imperial uniform that dropped.
Yes, I know what you're talking about. Yep.
But I couldn't do anything with it, so I gave it to her because it was just a blue.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, I think I sold it after I got all that gear from Rishi, but, it's a world drop. And I'm sure now, with the outfit designer, you're going to see the GTN just flooded with greens, blues, purples, everything people are selling that isn't moddable.
Right. Or you're going to see a lot of players like me who are going to be farming areas to get those drops.
I'm going to be hoarding everything that I get leveling up now. But when Play was mentioning the armor mechs, see, on my operative, I have that one uniform that otherwise wasn't available as an orange. But for the most part, all of the gear that I can make is available as an orange in the game, but it might be a different like shade. It might just be a recolor. Like I might be able to make a green version of something that you can get as an orange, but the colors are just slightly different. It's nothing majorly noticeable. There's not a whole lot of armor pieces that you couldn't already get as an orange that I can craft. And I'm maxed out in armor mech. But, you know, anything different is cool. Even if it's just a different color or whatever. But I feel like there's more compelling things out there as world drops that we don't even know exist because nobody's been paying attention to them.
Right. And so, you know, again, as people start figuring out, hey, you know what, if I farm this area, or if I run these quests over and over again, or these particular flashpoints, get this gear, you know, we'll start to see people revisiting, you know, sites like Dolphy or Tor Fashion, just to see, you know, where the hell does this thing drop? Because I want that look. I remember seeing that when I was level 25 and realized, you know what, I'm never getting that.
Poor Tor Fashion needs so much work since Ask Mr. Robot went away.
Oh, yeah, I don't envy them the work they have to
all of the item links are all broken now.
Yeah, I can imagine the nightmare they're having at the moment. What do we do?
Well, at least the Kickstarter for Tor Community went through, so we'll have a new database up and running and doing its thing before too long.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's sad though that the community had to crowdfund a database website because basically all the big companies just turned their back on this game. And there's other games out there that are much smaller, like EverQuest, that still have active database websites. I don't get it.
Yeah, I think it'd be nice though if Byro Austin actually just did that on their own. Okay.
Like an armory.
Yeah, I mean they have all the assets. It'd be, I think, at least for me, again, I'm no programmer, not claiming to be, but maybe it would be nice to say, okay, this is all the item data that we have that we can share with the people, you know, that we can share with everyone. You know, there's no super secret scroll stuff. It's all stuff, information we can see in the game if we hover our mouse over it for a description.
Super secret squirrel.
Yeah, you know, we'll create, you know, we'll dedicate server space here. All right, we'll double, triple check and make sure everything's correct, everything's fine, and say, hey, if you want to build a site like that, here is the link to this server information. Okay, and we'll update it as gear comes out. And I think that really go a long way, you know, for Byro Austin to show the support for the community to say, hey, we can give you this. You know, a database that any fan site can tap into to say, hey, we can link, you know, this new gear, we can link these speeders, we can link all this stuff for you.
Yeah, but you know, like everything we think would be simple seems to be walking uphill through the snow both ways for BioWare.
Well, again, like I said, I'm not claiming that it's going to be easy. You know, it probably isn't because it is a lot of work, you know, coding to be done, or, you know, moving information over to a particular database. So,
well,
who
just
knows
have
how
all
long
the
it take.
people that got off Shadow Realms do it.
Right, but you know, something like this would definitely help a site like Tor Fashion, especially in lieu of the fact that the Alpha Designer came out and people want that information as where the stuff drops and what it looks like. Okay, without having to comb through the nightmare that is the GTN and saying, all right, I just want this. My God, where is it? You know, or getting nonsensical, asinine answers when you ask in chat, where does this drop?
Well, part of the problem, too, is a lot of things in SWTOR are world drops. Like, especially now the outfit designer's out, people are going to be looking for particular items and just going to say, drops in zones between level 30 and 40.
Yeah.
Good luck. All right, well, I think that about wraps that up. So, Paige, what do you got for our Star Wars recommendation of the week?
For those interested in actually getting a look at the recommendation of the week, I will be posting a link with a photo on the Facebook wall when the show goes to iTunes. This week, we have something from Etsy.com. I chose this particular item because Mother's Day is coming up. I know Corv doesn't have a mother because we grew him in a petri dish. But the description of this shirt, the description of this shirt is: Mothers, show your love for your children and Star Wars. Let the Force be with you. Many colors of shirts available. That sounds so wrong. Font color will always be printed in yellow. It's a great Mother's Day gift. And the shirt actually says, Every great mother teaches her children the ways of the Force. I thought it was cute.
My mother just dropped me off at the steps of the academy and left. Are you laughing at me, Agent?
See, that's what all moms do when they have, Force-sensitive children, but your mom put you in a trash bag. That's the difference.
Most mothers pay a bounty hunter to go after your father when you're trying to escape Hutter. And
Most mothers. That was one time!
It was so repressed.
Light side, dark side choice. Light side, dark side choice.
Do you want a red or a white t-shirt?
Exactly. Which one would you prefer?
Alright, well, excellent suggestion for Mother's Day, which is just around the corner. I can't wait to see what you find for Father's Day.
Oh, there's so... I mean, I did find a shirt that was like, I am your
Star Wars
mother.
urn.
No, it was like, I am your mother, because everyone has that I am your father shirt with Darth Vader on it.
Father's Day is going to be an urn in a dustpan.
Oh.
Lou.
Save us.
What do you have for the intelligence report this week?
Okay, this takes into the continuation of Force Power. This is part 9, source of it all. And we pick it up with the power of Revitalize. And really simple, Revitalize was a light side force technique that revitalized an exhausted, wounded, or unconscious user, or whoever this user directed it at. Being a force-based power, it did not work on organics like droids. Next power we come to is Sever Force, or in the words of Olan via the Tedran Holocron, this technique blinds your enemy to the Force with a wall of light. A permanent blockage if you so choose, rendering him unable to use Jedi powers. It is difficult, and it is the most devastating attack possible using the powers of the light side. To block a Jedi from the Force, even a Dark Jedi, is a terrible thing. So, Sever Force was a non-lethal Force power by which a being's connection to the Force was interrupted or blocked from them with a wall of light side energy. According to the ancient Jedi scholar Olan, severing an individual's Force connection was the most powerful attack a Jedi could perform. While intended to be an attack with usually irreversible consequences, severing an individual's Force connection was not always permanent. When the affected being had the Force restored to them, it returned as a painful and sudden rush of feelings, as the Force immediately allowed the individual to sense everything around them at once. This was the case with Jedi Ben Skywalker, who had his Force connection severed by his cousin and Sith Lord Darth Caedus. Caedus had blocked his cousin's Force abilities while holding him captive in the Yuzhang Vong torture device known as the Embrace of Pain. In the times of the ancient Jedi, severing Force connections was used as a means of punishment. In 3951, before the Battle of Yavin, Jedi Masters Zez-Kyle, Kavar, and Varuk Lamar attempted to use this power on Meetia Surik, the Exile, but Kreia stopped them, not by severing their own Force connections, rather draining them and ultimately killing them. In a very taxing variation of this technique, usable only by those with experience in battle meditation, the Force user could use the Force to sever a target who was heavily tainted or consumed by the dark side. This technique effectively caves the user's power within their own darkness and rendered them blind to the Force, though not dead to it. Nomi Sunrider used the technique on Ula Keldroma after he killed his brother Kay on Ossus. Alright? Excuse me. And actually, folks, if you have a chance to actually read this particular story, because it is a graphic novel from Dark Horse, alright? It's actually going to be one of the first manifestations of this ability, alright? I think it's one of the first mentions of it in the Star Wars universe, to where Nomi would actually use this. She almost completely cut off Ula Keldroma from the Force, okay? And that was a pivotal moment in the storyline because that power had never really been manifested or used on anyone for ages, okay? So it never had really been taught to anyone, to any of the Jedi. And so in order for Sunrider to defeat Ula Keldroma, okay, she didn't defeat Dark Lord of the Sith with a saber. She just cut him off from the Force completely, to where he had when he was cut off, he fell to his knees because as if he had been struck in the gut and was blinded and couldn't hear. I mean, that's how, if you get that visceral feeling, that's how terrible it is to use this power, for a Jedi to use this on anyone. All right, it's like taking away all 5 of your senses at once. That's what it's like for a Jedi to cut someone off from the Force. All right, it's that visceral, it's that painful to that target. So that's why they hesitate to use it or to teach this ability, because, as Master Olan said, that is the most terrible light side power any Jedi could possess. Which brings us to the next power, which we see in Tor. Sith alchemy, or in the words of Swords of Zin, through alchemy, one uses the Force to effect change on the physical. Force alchemy, better known as Sith alchemy, was a science that referred to a number of areas under the Sith. It encompassed any power or technique which used the dark side of the Force to permanently alter an item or living being. While the Sith species practiced Sith alchemy long before the exiles arrived in Korriban, it was the exiles who perfected it, one of their best being Swords of Sin, using the knowledge to create the Leviathans that they acquired during the 100-year darkness. Okay, just so you know, footnote folks, the exiles are the original, the very first Dark Jedi, okay? After the Great Schism, where the Jedi split, okay? They're the ones who were banned from public space, and they're the actual Dark Jedi who discovered the Sith. And from there on, they no longer cease becoming Dark Jedi, because now they become they learn the ways of the Force that the Sith have. Right? Sith alchemy was primarily used to enhance the strength of weapons and armor, such as the famous Sith swords, or to genetically engineer and enhance alien species, making them more dangerous and easier to control by the Sith Lords. More sinisterly, Sith alchemy was capable of waking the dead in servitude to the Sith. Korriban zombies and possibly Sith undead were creations of this branch of the art. One of the many applications of Sith alchemy was the art of creating nefarious toxins, such as Sith poison. Naga Sadow wrote many texts concerning the art of Sith alchemy. These were studied by Sivis Spa, whose experiments were responsible for the behemoth from the world below. Certain xenobiologists suspected that the predators of Yavin 8 and the native melodies may have been products of Sith alchemy. And just as a footnote, while he was on Yavin 4, Sith Lord Exar Kun used alchemy to create the terrifying creatures twisted by the dark side's influence, okay? In the storyline, for the EU at least, when Exar Kun was there on Yavin 4, that's when he really started going crazy with his experiments and reshaping the native wildlife and the other species there into horrible monstrosities that he just created just to see what he could do. Not only just for the fun of it, but to see what he could use as tools to help build an army for himself. All right? And this brings us to Darth Plagueis, who was a master of this dark art. Plagueis' apprentice, Darth Sidious, later wrote a book about Sith alchemy called The Creation of Monsters, and was responsible for the creation of such monstrosities as shadow droids and chrysalis beasts. He claimed that Darth Vader was partially an alchemical creation. Darth Sidious may have also utilized the mask ability to hide his true corrupted features, and by this they mean because Sith alchemy can alter the physical appearance of anything. Okay, if we go to that scene in Revenge of the Sith, where Palpatine zaps the living daylights out of Mace Windu. All right, what happens there is that because Palpatine had to use so much of his power to take on Windu, when he used Force Lightning, all right, he lost his control over his physical body, and all the alchemical work he had done on himself to hide his true nature went away. And so, in essence, what they're saying, how we have the ability to show or hide our Sith corruption, if you're, dark side corruption on your character, that is exactly what he did. Okay? He was able to hide his corruption by physically changing his appearance so that his corruption wouldn't show at all. So I think that's a pretty neat trick. And this brings us on to our next power, which is called Dark Shear. And quite simply, the Dark Shear, or also known as the Spirit of Midnight Black, was a dark side force power. It enabled the Force user to summon the Force and forge with it an invisible spear from dark-side energies, which could be hurled at opponents, killing or injuring them as if it were a real physical spear. And I, for one, would like for BioWare Awesome to make this a power in Tor. Just saying, because that'd be cool. A ranged Force weapon like that. And this brings us on to the next power, which is called Spirit Transference, or in the words of Darth Endedu, Essence Transfer is the secret of eternal life. The physical body will always weaken and fail, yet it is nothing but a shell or vessel. When it is time, it is possible to transfer your consciousness, your spirit, into a new vessel. So, Transfer Essence, also known as Essence Transfer or Transfer Life, was a radical dark side force power used to transfer a person's consciousness into another body, or in some cases an inanimate object. Ancient Sith Lords and other powerful Darksiders used this technique to cheat death again and again, haunting their tombs and possessing those who stumbled across their sarcophagi in order to continue their reign of terror. In more recent eras, masters of this Darkside art had used advanced technology, cloning technology, to assure their immortality. The power enabled the wielder's spirit to survive the death of their organic body by usurping control of a suitable receptacle. If the invading consciousness was powerful enough, it could override and expel the mind of the target body. However, it was nearly impossible to overcome a spirit already residing in a body, and the practitioner's own body disintegrated in the attempt. If the target resisted the possession attempt, or if the user failed in their attempt to bond with the object, their disembodied spirit, with nowhere else to go, was consigned to chaos. Given the power's inherent difficulty, its unpredictable nature, and the unspeakable consequences of failure, most would-be practitioners in this modern era chose to have their bodies cloned by trained technicians and kept in a hidden safe house, unconscious in stasis tanks until they were needed. The clones, lacking life experiences or a sense of self, were each little more than a blank slate upon which the original could imprint their consciousness with ease. Among the earliest Sith Lords to use this technique was Karnus Mur, a Lord of the Sith Empire who bound his spirit to the Sith artifact that bore his name, the Mur Talisman. The talisman allowed Mur not only to cheat death, but also to take possession of whoever wore the talisman, unless the wearer's willpower was strong enough to resist him, as was the case with Celeste Morn. The Sith Emperor used this ability, or a similar ability, to put his essence into another body, which he called, and was publicly known as, the Voice of the Emperor. The children of the Emperor also had some of the Emperor's essence in them, which made it possible for him to affect his presence on them. Unlike his spiritual descendants, Exar Kun, Dark Lord of the Sith during the era of the Great Sith War, he used this power not to suborn another body or possess an object, but to anchor his spirit to the Massassi Temple on Yavin 4. When his apprentice Ulikil Droma betrayed him to the Jedi, Kun called all of his Massassi followers into the Temple of Fire, then used their life force and the alchemical apparatus led by his predecessor, Naga Sadao, to abandon his body, drawing on the remarkable focusing energies of the Massassi temples to anchor himself to the physical world. Alright, so just to explain that, folks, if you've read like the New Jedi Order, okay, when Luke first recreates the Jedi Order, or the Jedi Praxium, he actually puts the Academy member on Yavin 4, on the actual temples, to where the Alliance had their base, okay? And once they were there, that's when Exar Kun revealed himself to Luke and the Jedi there, because he was trying to corrupt them. All right, and they figured out, he was actually physically, his spirit was somehow bound to the temples, but, they found a way to get rid of it. Not going to ruin the story for you, but read it. Pretty cool. But again, just as a side note, this is actually what, if you think about it, this is the actual power that Anakin was looking for to help save Padme. All right, he wanted something just like this. But as we just explained, this is actually a horrible way to pursue immortality, unless you're actually using a clone body of yourself. All right, and again, just as another teaser, all right, this is actually one way that Palpatine actually survives later on. If you've read the EU, okay, this is how he does, kind of come back. But that's as far as I go with that, because that brings us into our next power, which is called Memory Walk, or torture by chagrin. Memory Walk was a dark side force ability developed by Rokor Gepta. It consisted of mentally reaching into the victim's mind, forcing them to relive all the worst memories of their life, both painful ones and ones that were merely embarrassing, over and over and over again, to the point where it almost seemed to cause physical pain. Interestingly, Gepta found that after a brief session of torture, the subjects demonstrated a slight increase in intelligence and efficiency after they recovered. For this reason, he used it regularly on the crew of his personal command ship, the Wenus. To make the process more personal, the sorcerer Toon, him, had created a machine which would amplify his power and allow him to pick and choose which memories a subject would relive. The machine would also let Gepta alter the memories to be even worse than they were already. Okay, so originally how this power manifests itself is that it just allows you, okay, to just torture your target by whatever memories that they have, okay, in no particular order, embarrassing, humiliating, emotionally, physically painful, what have you, no set order. It was up to whatever your target was doing at the time, what they felt. When he refined the process, he was actually able to, it was pretty much just like being able to read a person like a book, seeing which chapter of their life was most embarrassing or most painful to them, and actually just make them focus on that or those ideas alone. Okay? And later on, as I just mentioned, he was actually able to, quote unquote, step into those memories and somehow change them, okay, to amplify the pain. Like he would change certain aspects of the memory to where it would just exponentially increase the embarrassment, the humiliation, agony, what have you. All right? And then this brings us into another force power, the Thought Bomb. We've all heard of this before. Or in the words of Lord Kopex, it's an old Sith skill. The Force can be extracted and mentally bound into a shape primed for explosion. A Thought Bomb. It was the result of an ancient ritual that, through the focused willpower of many unified Sith Lords, unleashed the full volatility of the dark side of the Force. When detonated, a Thought Bomb annihilated the entirety, corporeal and beyond, of every Force-sensitive being caught within its blast radius and absorbed their fragmented souls into a swirling vortex of perpetual torment that resolved into an orb of silver iridescence. Okay? While the ability to wield such destructive power originated around with the ancient Sith, its existence was discovered during the Jedi Civil War by the Dark Lord of the Sith, Darth Revan, who recorded the secrets of its creation with his Sith holocron. Revan's repository and the Thought Bomb ritual therein remained hidden in a forgotten temple on the planet Lahan until it was discovered in 1,000 years before the Battle of Yavin by the Sithari, Darth Bane, who passed the instructions for its creation on to Lord Khan, leader of the Brotherhood of Darkness. In a desperate attempt to end the war in which they were engaged with the Jedi, the Dark Lords of Khan's Sith Brotherhood created and detonated a Thought Bomb that annihilated nearly all sapient, Force-sensitive life on the planet Ruusan. More than 1,000 years later, the spirits of the vanquished Jedi trapped within the Thought Bomb were set free by the valor of a young rebel agent named Kyle Katarn. Yes, that's one of the Dark Forces games. Pretty cool. The creation of a Thought Bomb required the collective focus of many Sith Lord participants, all considerably strong in the dark side of the Force. Arranged in a circular formation and joined by hands, those gathered began to chant an incantation that rapidly drew on the Force and channeled it into the center of the ring. As the expanding tide of darkness spun within the circle, so too did the minds of the United Sith coalesce into a single consciousness with which to shape the harnessed energy. As the ritual progressed, the thoughts, cognizance, and identities of the participants were consumed by the vortex until all were bereft of their individuality, transformed into a single entity within the Force. Eschewing the need for any further physical contact, the celebrants raised their hands toward the epicenter and gave corporeal form to that which had moments before had been immaterial. They recited the incantation that bound their collective will with the power of the dark side. So concentrated was the summoned power that the fabric of reality itself was distorted within the ring. All light, heat, and sound were drawn into the vacuum of the Thought Bomb, and tendrils of energy from a cloud of utter darkness formed over the master of the ceremony, who had since taken a position in the midst of his companions. The force grew thick, akin to congealed blood, in the atmosphere of the planet on which a thought bomb was in preparation, and those not attuned to the dark side could physically feel the burden of the unreleased energy. A single clap of the hands instantly detonated the thought bomb and transformed the essences of the affected into an oblong sphere that absorbed all light but emanated a pale radiance of its own and thrummed with rhythmic vibrations. The dull gray, flat-surfaced, slightly nitreous orb shimmered with the smoke-like shadows of its trapped victims, and though they often found it grotesquely repulsive, living beings in its presence were compelled to gaze upon the end result of the thought bomb. It hovered a meter above the ground, was 4 meters from top to bottom, and had a circumference of roughly 3 meters. The ovoid, which resembled another ancient Sith weapon in size and shape, burned with a cold fire upon touch, and the shadows within converged on the point of contact to whisper suggestions of hate and despair to the curious. The thought bomb was designed by the ancient Sith to eliminate all force-strong opposition, namely Jedi, but was reserved as a last resort when no other means of ensuring victory existed. The willingness to employ such devastation was often attributed to madness on part of the thought bomb's creators, given their apparent disregard for the probability of their own resultant demise. Indeed, when detonated, a thought bomb killed every proximate force adept indiscriminately. However, tremendous strength in the force or maintaining a considerable distance from ground zero increased the chances of one's survival. And again, just as a little background explanation, okay, if you do read the Darth Bane novels, you realize, okay, this is exactly what Bane uses to help, again, enforce his own mindset of the Sith no longer function properly. You know what? I'm going to create the rule of two. So with the thought bomb on Ruusan, he realizes that all or most of the remaining Sith, okay, during this part of the war, are there. They're on Ruusan, helping create the thought bomb. And this is what helps Bane actually make the rule of two more of a reality, because he realized that 90% of his opposition are going to be here anyway, and they're all going to die. So that makes his job easier. All right, so if you want to see this in action, more than the description I've given you, read the Darth Bane novels, and you'll get a better idea of how this worked and see it in action. All right, and this brings us into our next power, Revelation. Quite simply, a force power that was formulated by the Disciples of Twilight. Users of this ability could locate their enemies through the enemy being silhouetted by a faint shimmering light that belied their location. So obviously this power is actually used in low light or no light situations, to where you can actually concentrate and actually just see, quote unquote, see your target or the people around, or anything around you. And then this brings us to the last power of tonight, Cleanse Mind. Simply, Cleanse Mind was a crucial force power that was employed by Jedi Consulars of the Jedi Order. It allowed a member of the Jedi Consulars to negate an ongoing mind-affecting force power from themselves or an ally within their line of sight. And yes, this concludes force powers. What was that, Fred?
That was Paige.
Okay. There actually are a bit more to go over, but those are all, what's left of force powers are actually different variations of other force powers that I mentioned in the past. Actually, the past 8 episodes, those are all separate, distinct force powers. Okay, what's left are actually different variations depending on if different sects, orders, or groups use this particular version of the ability. It was called this. Okay, so this actually ends force power. And as always, I wish to say thank you to the Wikipedia, StarWars.com, TheForce.net, and other Star Wars lore sites. Folks, if you enjoy the Star Wars lore as much as I do, please go to any one of these sites, take a look, and enjoy.
All right, so then next up is the Community Holo feed. What do we got up first, Lou?
All right, as always, the Trivia Question of the Week, where each week we're going to post a trivia question into our YouTube video version of the show. Simply go to StarWarsBeyond.com, and we'll link you right to the episode. On the episode page, there will be a button you press to see the Trivia Question of the Week. Alternatively, it'll always be after we say our goodbyes. Then, shoot us an email with your answer to StarWarsBeyond@gmail.com. In the email, please include your character name, what faction you're in, the server you're on, and did I mention what faction you're on? If there's more than one correct answer, we'll do a random drawing to win a cartel pack. everyone that answers correctly will be entered into a drawing for a much larger prize, which will draw on the show every couple of months. You can be entered into the grand prize drawing every single time you answer correctly. So don't be discouraged if you don't win one this week or next week, but as long as you have the correct question, Fred, Paige, and I make a note of it, and when we actually hold the next grand prize drawing, you'll be in that pool. All right, so don't hesitate. Send your answer in.
You know what amazes me, though, Lou, is the person that won this time actually guessed the correct answer in record time simply by listening to us read the question live, but they neglected to follow the part that you just read.
Oh, so the lucky winner this week actually gave us their character name, but didn't give us their faction, or what server they play on, and their faction.
Disqualification.
So unfortunately, just the game says dun 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 dun. Oh, so close. So close.
He's defending himself in chat. It's not like you can't find me on Jedi Covenant.
Yeah, it's not like I got 6 Imperial characters and 6 Republic characters on Jedi Covenant.
Alrighty, though, drum roll. This is the first time this person is qualified and answered correctly to a trivia question.
That's correct. And that person is LA. Who guessed? That's right. The planet Bastion.
Trig's happy.
All right, remember, Bastion.
It's getting all over the floor.
Oh boy. Okay, Bastion will become the latest home for what's now called the Imperial Remnant. All right, with the expanded universe. Okay. After the Alliance, pretty much wins after Return of the Jedi. Okay, after that great battle there over Endor. All right, things start to systematically not go the Empire's way. Okay, due to infighting between the various fleet admirals, Imperial Army generals, and other elements within the Empire, all right, who have their own power bases, the Empire will fragment. Okay, where you have various Imperial warlords fighting for control of territory and for supremacy. But what happens is that the majority of the Empire is able to stabilize, hold itself together, and now they become the Imperial Remnant, and they move. The last home they have that they settle on will be Bastion. Okay, so it will become the repository, the capital world for the Imperial Remnant. So Imperial culture will be centered there. The Imperial archives, so on. Everything will be there on Bastion. All right, and it's going to be one of the most protected worlds in the galaxy. All right, since it is the last stronghold for the Empire, the Remnant does all it can to fortify its planetary and system defenses. All right, and it's actually a pretty cool story. One of the books where you'll have Han and Lando actually infiltrate Bastion at great personal risk to get information that the New Republic needs to survive a crisis. So, congratulations, Pele. You will receive your cartel pack in a couple of days.
Yeah, we're gonna give you the prize anyway.
Even though failure to follow directions, that's cool. That's all right.
I mean, it was only basic, and we only say it like 3 times every episode. But it's okay.
Ray participates in class but does not follow directions. Please sign this note and send it.
Well, this will come up when we meet with your parents next week.
Yeah, so it will have to be mentioned during the next. And
your desk is going to face the corner from this point forward. But as a bonus question, if anybody wants to win a free cartel pack from me, if you can tell me the real name of the Bastion of Thunder in EverQuest, I'll send you a free cartel pack.
Is that for the first person who does it or for everyone?
Random winner, more than one person enters, but I expect only one entry, if any.
From Lou?
Lou's disqualified.
Yeah, I'm just
Boo. You know, we actually had something from Twitter this week, and we answered the question on Twitter. But I don't think, Lou, were you involved in this one? Yes, you were. We had Lewis at Mater Rex ask us if we would, or how we would feel if in episode 7 C3PO or R2D2 died. Would you feel as sad as if a real person died? You guys basically said no, and I said yes. I was like, oh my god, I would be so sad. It would be like the dog that dies in the movie. You have to cry. Like, even if it all works out in the end, I'd be like, oh my god.
Well, and that's the one distinction I think we brought up, is the fact that as long as 3PO's or R2's memory core is intact, that's fine, because they're technically they are still alive because they still have the memories. If anything else, if that's the only thing that survives, we can always put that memory core into another astromech body or protocol droid body. So we can cheat their death that way, which is cool.
I basically told him when he asked this, like, if I was Luke, I'd have like 20 copies of R2D2 running around with different backups.
I'm not gonna lie. Even if I knew that they could back him up, I would cry. It's like when Groot dies or doesn't die in...
Oh, spoilers.
Whatever. That movie's been out. That's been out. You're like, oh god, we are Groot! And then he's baby Groot, and you're like, oh, I'm so happy. But if I watched it again, I'd still cry.
Oh yeah, I mean, like I said in my original tweet, in one of my tweets to that, I'd feel the pain because, remember what happens at the end of Revenge of the Sith. 3PO has his memory erased. Okay, Bail Organa orders, one of his guards to erase his memory. So that's why whenever 3PO first meets everyone again, he has no memory of who the hell they are, except for R2, but he says nothing. And I think I mentioned this in other episodes in the past. Okay, there is I think a single book or two, I forgot which one, I had to look it up, to where I think either Luke or Leia is finally able to tap into that part of R2's memory core. Or kind of like when Luke first stumbles upon Leia's message in New Hope. Something like that happens. And now R2 is able to unlock or access those parts of his memories again. Alright, and the entire book deals with Luke and Leia actually seeing, not Darth Vader, but seeing Anakin Skywalker, okay? Padawan. Because now, remember how long has R2 been around? Anakin. Alright? When you first met him on Tatooine, when he was a slave. Okay, all the adventures they had up to the point where he entered the academy. And then again, he picks up again when he, reunites with Padme. And just like in the original Clone Wars animated shorts, okay, the very first one by Tartakovsky, back in Cartoon Network many years ago. All right, you actually see in one of those 5-minute shorts where Padme actually gives 3PO and R2 to Anakin as a gift. Once they start having, they start seeing each other, get married. She actually, it's a little like 15-second clip to where she calls him aside privately, and gives a grand gesture of she's giving them to him as his own. And from that point forward, what happens? Anakin and R2 are never really separated, just like Luke and R2 are always together in the movies and in the books. So that's why I say I feel it more with R2, because he's got almost 40 decades of adventures of this one family he's with.
40 decades?
Well, 30, yeah, because...
decades are 10 years.
Yeah. Going from before the Clone Wars, all right? And when the Clone Wars end, okay, it's almost 21 years after that where we pick up with A New Hope.
But
I think he's saying 4 decades.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He's got 30 decades of memories. Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Sorry,
Yeah.
3 decades. Yeah, 3
Way
decades,
too
yeah,
many
yeah.
decades. Lou.
Yeah,
Way too
sorry.
many. Maybe R5D4 had that many decades, and that's why his motivator was bad.
He's got 3 decades worth of memories in him of all that stuff he encountered with him. All right, and that's why I say I feel it more, because when you read that particular book, you actually feel the emotional and mental pain that Luke and Leia experience seeing their father, not as Darth Vader, but as actual, holy crap, my dad's a kick-ass Jedi Knight. You know, you see Anakin in his prime doing all those great things that he and Ben do as Jedi Knights before the wars, Clone Wars, and during the Clone Wars. Okay, why they earn their reputations, okay? You'll see why, Luke will see, things like, all right, this is why Ben calls my father, he was the best starfighter pilot in the galaxy. All right, so seeing your father doing great noble deeds, and then seeing him, like, oh my God, how do I rectify this image of him to what he is now, to what I had him when I first met him?
Well, you know what's coming, don't you, Lou? Episode 7, when Luke said, my father has it. You're going to see Hayden Christensen as a freaking Force ghost following Luke around.
Who knows, but you know what? When I first saw that scene in the second trailer they released, when R2 and maybe that's Luke, maybe that's Anakin, who knows? Because they both have a robotic right hand, right? But at bonfire,
I don't think that's Anakin.
All right, but that's one of the theories floating out there in Star Wars land. But regardless, that's if they do cherry pick what they want to keep, I think that's one thing they should keep with the lore. It's like, hey, remember, R2's never been erased. He's got all that stuff in him. Let him show them those memories.
Telling you, dude, I really think that they should have taken Mark Hamill's son and actually had him play Luke Skywalker's son, because Mark Hamill's son looks exactly like he did when he was younger.
Yeah, yes, he does.
He literally could be Luke Skywalker in flashbacks. Like, he looks just like him. And I don't care how bad of an actor that guy is. If we could deal with the people in the prequels, his son could definitely pull it off.
Yowza.
I mean, Mark Hamill wasn't even a great actor in the original trilogy, but, it was good enough. It immersed us.
I'm ready, Ben. Tell him I'm ready.
Hey.
But I wanted to go to Tashi Station to pick up power converters.
Hey, you're talking about the greatest voice for the Joker. Okay.
While you're there, why don't you pick up a motivator and we could keep the original droid we wanted? This temperamental little bastard. You take him to the factory and you recycle him and bring me that 5-cent deposit.
Oh my, that was mean.
Star Wars would have been a whole different movie at that point. Really, though, if anybody knows where I could get a little model R5-D4, that'd be cool. I want to have one to sit on my desk. That's already pre-assembled, because assembling things is a waste of my time.
Hey, you know what? I think if there are kits out there or being made for BB-8, I'm sure someone out there can make models of kits for the other astromechs we've seen in the movies.
Well, Jay Connell linked me to a website, but all the astromechs on there are $2,500, and I'm not looking for something like that. I just want a little. I wish that there was a company, and maybe there is, and I'm not aware of this, that makes little, about the size of a pop can, droids that are made of metal and durable. I think that would be cool. And it cost $500.
Yeah, or just any regular die-cast type metal display. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I know Disney has an assembly in Star Wars Land now where you can actually build your own astromech.
Oh, that's so cool.
But they're like little plastic action figures. I want something that's more like a model to sit on my desk. And, if it happens to come up, if anybody knows where I could get one of those, email me, tweet me. That'd be cool. All right, so then, Paige, what's going on in our SWTOR community?
Check out our fellow SWTOR podcasts. Most of them are available on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and at SWTORnetwork.com. There's ToroCast at ToroCast.com, Corellian Run Radio at CorellianRun.com, UntiniCast at UntiniCast.com, SWTOR Skate Podcast at NewOverlords.com, The Usual Podcast at TheUsualPodcast.com. Old Republic Radio is on iTunes, Healing SWTOR is on iTunes, NBD Podcast is on iTunes, and the Bad Feeling Podcast is at badfeelingpodcast.com. Be warned, that is an explicit podcast. Also follow Madmar at SWTOR Family for the latest happenings in the SWTOR community. If you'd like to have your podcast listed on this segment, send us an email at StarWarsBeyond@gmail.com.
Alright, and one last time I'm going to run down how you can get a hold of us. You can find out more about our show at StarWarsBeyond.com. You can like us on Facebook at Facebook.com/StarWarsBeyondPodcast. You can send us an email to StarWarsBeyond@gmail.com. You can tweet the show at StarWarsBeyond. I am at SithLordCorv. Lou is at GamerGuy11B, and Paige is at Asa Fiery. And before we move into our final thoughts, I want to remind everybody the next GGC episode is about to record, and Lou is going to be our representative from Beyond the Stars, so wish him luck. Hope that the other podcasters don't torture him too much. But luckily, the Imperial Academy has put him through enough rigorous training that he should be able to endure torture, right?
He's a member
Indeed.
of Sith intelligence. He can hold his own.
I don't know. You should see what the Republic does to him in Act 2. So moving into our final thoughts.
My final thought is I'm glad that they actually had some swift disciplinary action to get this against those folks that were exploiting. That is a good sign to me that they're trying to set things right.
Yeah, my final thought is I'm liking 3.2 so far. All right, I'm enjoying Ziost, and I can't wait for the rest of it to be released, the rest of the storyline, so I can go through it, all my characters, and the outfit designer, a win for me. So, all those great outfits, those looks I've always wanted, RP looks I wanted for all my characters, is now even much more of a reality. I can introduce more variety without hitting my credit book that hard anymore. Great job, BioWare. Good job.
And my final thought is, I certainly hope that Lou enjoys the new uniform that I sent over to him, and the bill for 800,000 credits, made payable to Sith Lord Corv, care of Captain Kimbray. Beyond the Stars is an independently recorded fan podcast made in association with NSG Productions. And now it's time to say goodnight.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Good night, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. See you all again next time. 800,000 credits, man. That's easy money.
Good night, everybody. I'm off to look up R5D4 models. Don't cry, ID10T. There'll be plenty of room for you in the trash compactor.
He is the trash compactor.
Shh. He's multi-talented.
You've served your purpose.
Beyond the Stars trivia question for the week of May 1st, 2015. First clue. My primary task was for consular and or diplomatic missions. Second clue. Two of us would serve a noble house during two conflicts and spanning two generations of a single family. Third clue. Others like me, although outgunned and outmatched by the Empire's mightiest, never hesitated in helping restore peace and justice during the Galactic Civil War. Fourth clue. During the Clone Wars, I would be used to help rescue Jedi from Order 66. Fifth clue. In my last mission, my crew and I would fail our mistress due to an onslaught of overwhelming firepower and expert troops. What am I? And folks, please send your answers to StarWarsBeyond@gmail.com. And in your email, please include your character name, faction, what server you're on. Did I mention what faction you're in? And as always, good luck everyone. Looking forward to seeing all your responses.